Hi, happy Wednesday morning. Welcome to Morning Lives with me, Melissa Agnes, a daily space to help leaders just like you stay grounded and connected to what actually matters. So what matters is staying grounded and connected to you, to yourself, right? To you, to safety in your body, to your vision, to the knowledge that your vision and your mission, the mountains you're here to move, are possible and they are yours to move. Connected to infinite wisdom, clarity, resilience that comes from within, as well as connected to those you are leading so that you can actually really create influence, meaningful impact, and have them follow your leadership. So that's what we talk about every morning, Monday through Friday. As long as I'm not traveling, I am here live 9 a.m. on LinkedIn and IG. The recordings go to LinkedIn, YouTube, and they stream everywhere you can listen to a podcast. And what I do is I just offer kind of 10 minutes of perspective on some kind of topic that I think is relevant or supportive or that I hope will be, as well as inspirational. And then we do a 10-minute coherence drop-in. So that 10 minutes coherence drop-in is a game changer for the rest of your day when you do it with me. And I'll get more into that later when it's time to do that. So if you have questions or comments as I share, please feel free to put them in the chat or the comments section on LinkedIn and IG. If you're listening to the recording and you have the same, send them to me. I absolutely want to hear from you. Okay, today I want to talk about emotional regulation, which I was going to say maybe it's not a topic that a lot of people want to talk about, but that doesn't bother me because it's a topic that we should be talking more about because there's so much emotional dysregulation. Excuse me. And emotional dysregulation leads to a lot of the problems that we're experiencing in our world right now. So it's actually really an important topic. And one thing that I'm noticing, the more that I kind of talk about this with people and leaders and through the different like coaching and mentorship and different things that I provide, is that there's one particular misconception or misunderstanding about emotional regulation that pops up often. And I kind of want to debunk that today. So the misconception or the misunderstanding that pops up often is essentially leaders who feel like they're doing it wrong because they're stressed out. Or they're doing it wrong because they don't feel, for a lack of a better way of saying it, or for just a way of kind of just all-encompassing saying it, they feel like they're doing it wrong because they're struggling to get into regulation, or they're finding that they have to consistently get back into regulation. So the first thing that I want to say is that let's talk about the value of this, okay? So emotional regulation is not being in high vibes, happiness, feeling good and energetic and positive all the time. That's not human, right? That would be what they call toxic positivity potentially, or bypassing, or avoidance, or just not really sitting with. So that is not what emotional regulation is. Emotional regulation is also not saying, I feel this way, but I just got to muscle through. That is not emotional regulation. That would be suppressing, avoiding, bypassing. And that leads to challenges. Challenges for yourself as a human being, challenges for your leadership, because that means that it means that other people will feel that from you, and that creates an unconscious, subconscious distrust. And we've talked about the impact of our nervous system with each other, on each other, and how we co-regulate, and the importance of co-regulating and self-regulation for your leadership. So we've talked about that in different episodes. Sorry, guys, I'm just checking in to make sure that I don't get any or I'm not missing any comments from you. Performing composure is also not emotional regulation. So what I mean by that, performing composure, is in Crisis Ready for High Stakes Comms and Leadership, we teach that it is so important to be an emotive or show that you are an emotive human being. That doesn't mean being emotional. That means not putting this facade that you have all the answers and that you're steady and secure when you're not. When there are moments where actually saying what you're going through in a way that instills credibility, instills confidence, instills trust, instills relatability, because then that leads to trust and confidence, all those things, actually connects you more deeply with your stakeholders, because you're not standing there going, oh my God, I'm so scared, or oh my goodness, I'm so scared and I don't know what I'm going to do. That's not instilling confidence. But instead you're saying, hey, I know this is challenging. I'm struggling through this as well, or I'm having a hard time here as well, because this is so uncharted, such uncharted territory. And here's what we know is true, and here's what we're doing, and here's why, and here's how we're going to get through it together, right? Like, that is strong leadership, and that takes so much courage, because that's vulnerable. And most leaders, putting it point blank, most leaders don't have the courage or the inner strength to do that. And that's because, for putting it like generally speaking, that's because we haven't been taught as a society how to do that. We've actually been taught that that's weakness, and the people or the idea that that's weakness comes from fear, not strength, because it actually takes great strength to be relatable and emotive and human when you are leading through the most, trying times of your career, of your life. It takes so much strength. So it's actually not weak. So emotional regulation is not those things that I just named. What it really is, and this is what I'm going to describe to you, and kind of go down a list of things that I've put together that emotional regulation is, so that just to kind of create some clarity around it. But what's the value of this before we get into that? The value of this is being a regulated human, right? Having the strength and the capacity. So emotional regulation, you can, the more regulated you're able to be, comes with how your window of tolerance for your nervous system regulation. All of that comes from strength from within. And that's what we practice when we do our morning drop-ins, is we really get in touch with and fine-tune and strengthen the connection with your inner strength, your inner safety. The more you do that, the easier it becomes to be real, to process through what you're feeling, and all the things. So the value of that is deeper connection and deeper resonance with those you're leading for your mission. And that is really, 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 really important when you are a visionary leader out there moving mountains. So put any questions in the chat if you have any. If I'm saying things that you'd like me to clarify, or any of that, right? Because I don't want to be ambiguous. And I love to make it more real. So if you have examples or questions, that allows me to make it real. As you do that, I'm going to share what emotional regulation actually is, because it is human. So I'll say this fast. When I said earlier that there's this big misconception of I'm not emotionally regulated, or I'm not quote unquote good at that because I'm constantly kind of teeter-tottering between regulation and non-regulation. That's human. That is part of the human experience, right? Emotional regulation ultimately is being able to come back to center and process through what you're feeling in a really healthy way, so that you can lead with clarity, with vision, with your full prefrontal cortex engaged, which means access to innovative, creative problem solving and all of your executive functions that you want to lead with. So that is a huge value. Okay, so going through the list that I've created. So the capacity to be with your emotions without being controlled by them. Last week, I talked about how most people react instead of respond. When you react, you are not emotionally regulated. And most people do that. So if that's interesting to you, go back and listen to that session, because that was a powerful session. The ability to feel fully without losing your presence. That's a really, really hard and challenging thing to do. If you were to look inward and go, am I able, checking in with yourself, am I able to truly feel fully without losing presence? Most people can't do that. Most people can't do that because they haven't been taught to do that. That takes that regulated or that that nervous system capacity, right? That when you're in anger or when you're in grief or when you're in whatever you might be, like frustration or whatever, that you are able to feel that fully while still staying present and not getting caught up in the story of it or the actions that you want to take that might not lead to the best results, right? Awareness before action, that comes with that. So when I say that most people react versus respond, they're in autopilot and their emotions are leading the way. I will say this, you might think that, you don't do that. Most leaders, in my experience to date, we're working to change this, but in my experience to date, most leaders don't realize when they're in a fear state and are reacting out of fear, especially in moments of intensity, of chaos, of uncertainty, of crisis, etc. They don't think that they are, but they are in a state of fear and they're making decisions from that fear-based place. So having the awareness, and this is what we teach at Crisis Ready, having the awareness of saying, oh, I know what fear, for example, feels like in my body. So even if I think I've got all my faculties, for example, I know I've shared this in the past. Fear is a voice that sits right outside of the left side of my head, and it starts rattling off all of the things. It's like hypervigilance. Starts rattling off all the what ifs and all the things to protect against and all the things. And so if I'm in a state and I think that I'm perfectly fine, but I start to hear that voice come online, I know right away that there's something going on and I need to re-regulate. So I will stop what I'm doing and I will tend to that so that I'm clean, right? So that my energy is clean, my emotions are clean, I'm not losing my executive functions. So awareness before action comes with understanding how the different emotions and the energies of those emotions actually feel and are experienced in your body so that you can work with your body in moments. The ability, that leads to the second one, the ability to hold multiple emotions at once. I will do a whole other session on this, but this is again something that we teach that's so important. Two things can be true at the same time. You can feel overwhelmed or nervous and excited at the same time. You can feel deep grief and still have a really good day, right? And oftentimes that then comes with guilt because if you're, especially with grief, right, there's this idea of like, I shouldn't be happy right now. Two things can be true. Two things are often true. It's not black and white. And your capacity, as a human being, you have such a capacity to hold and to feel. And so acknowledging that two things can be true and being able to hold both. So I was having this conversation with my girlfriend the other day where she was actually one of the ones, she was like, I don't think I'm doing this right because I'm in this like constant state of needing to come back to regulation, needing to come back. And I was like, yeah, that's because you're human and you're lifing and it's hard. And she's like, yeah, but what's the ultimate? And I said, the ultimate skill, in my opinion, in my experience of this is if you are leading through something that is challenging, and you are dealing with fear-based emotions from those you are leading, right? Your stakeholders, your community, whatever it might be, your team, your family, whatever it might be. You might feel worried, fearful, anxious, right? All those things. You can also at the same time feel hopeful and strong and courageous and confident. Two things can be true and active in your being at the same time. And so the trick, or the skill, I won't say the trick, the skill is getting to a level where you can actually process through that fear-based emotion while you're leaning in real time, while you're leaning into that higher frequency so that you can lead. That is not bypassing. That is not avoiding. That is regulating your nervous system and your emotional system while you feel into and lead from that higher frequency, that more confident, safe place at the same time. If that's interesting to you, that is a super skill that we teach at the Visionary Leadership Mastermind. So go check that out at melissaagnes.com. But that is ultimately like when you are really strong in emotional regulation, you're not saying I'm gonna come like I'm going to avoid this and just appear. I'm going to fake it till I make it. I'm going to appear to be strong. No, you're actually going, I'm feeling this. This is real for me. This anger, this fear, this whatever it might be, this worry is real for me. And while I process it, what else is true? And you tap into that other thing that is true, that higher frequency. And you lead from this place while you self-resource and work through this place in real time. That is a really, really strong skill. And that's very, very possible. That is in our capacity as human beings to be able to do. Expanding your window of tolerance, that is increasingly expanding your ability to regulate your nervous system, and that's what we do with our coherence drop-ins. So the more you're able to get back to center, the more you're able to more easily and seamlessly regulate your emotionality. Staying connected to your body, not escaping in your mind, because that is where worry, fear, doubt, all the things that you don't want to be feeling or that you don't want to be leading from exist. And we do this again every morning when we do our coherence drop-in. And then, I know we're running out of time, so I'm just looking through. Allowing emotion to move, not getting stuck in it. That goes with story, right? Allowing yourself to really feel the bigness of what you feel. I'm not saying in the moment of leadership, right? This is a different moment when you're processing through, allowing yourself to feel the bigness of what you feel and letting it move all the way through you, not being scared if it brings tears, if it brings you wanting to take a pillow and scream into it, whatever you have to do to move through, and then get still, get quiet, get into your body, and get re-regulated. If you have to do that 5 times a day, that's okay. That means that you are strengthening your skill at emotional regulation. That doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. That actually means that you're doing it right because you're remembering to do it. And then lastly, I'll say not needing to fix the emotion to move forward. There's no shoulds or shouldn'ts. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be feeling that way. That's judgment, and that's unkind and uncompassionate or discompassionate to yourself. And then you end up reflecting that onto others, and then that's judgy, and that's lacking compassion and lacking empathy. There's no shoulds or shouldn'ts. There just are with emotions. There is a potentially shouldn't, let's not react and go and take our emotions out on other people. Let's instead do all the things I'm talking about and self-regulate so that you can show up in every moment, especially through the challenges that you have to lead through, in your highest, in alignment with your highest self and who you want to be. All right, send me questions if you have questions. I went through that so quickly, and now we're gonna do our coherence drop-in. But yeah, such an important skill because everything is emotional these days, and there's so much of it, and there's so much dysregulation. And so when we always say that, you know, the strongest person in the room, or the most powerful person in the room. The most powerful person in the room is the most regulated person in the room, because you become that steady source of credibility, of trust, of safety for the nervous systems of others. And that is so incredibly powerful. And that starts from being able to expand your own capacity to be regulated, both nervous system regulation and emotional regulation. Okay, let's do our drop-in. Let's practice this. That's what we do. So we're going to take 10 minutes. For those of you who are new to this, welcome. If you are driving, doing something unsafe, please don't do this. Come back to the recording, which will be available on YouTube, LinkedIn, and anywhere podcasts are streamed later today. And if you are sitting in a public space and you could get still, but there's people around and you're like, I'm going to feel silly because they're going to start judging me. Invitation to feel silly and do it anyway because it's for you. It will strengthen your skills, your connection, your potency, your resonance, your power, your alignment, your clarity, all the things. And you'll be doing a service to the world because you'll be leading by example. So invitation to feel silly and do it anyway. The more you do that, the less silly you feel. The safer you feel in your body, right? And such a powerful thing. Okay, all we're gonna do is breathe. So we do this to get out of our analytical thinking, analytical mind, which is where fear-based emotions live, and into our body where we can then access that emotional regulation, that nervous system regulation, heart-brain coherence that I'm talking about, where you get to find safety Cultivate safety within yourself, which is such a powerful leadership skill when you are leading through change or moving the mountains that you're here to move, because you're going to be met with resistance and all the things. And you get access to clarity, to answers to questions that you might be seeking answers to that don't come from the brain. You have to get still in order to find them, and then the brain can do with them what it must. And all kinds of other things. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the halo active breath, which is in through the nose, out through the mouth. We're likely going to go over by 3 minutes because I talked a lot today, so apologies for that. But we're only going to take 10 minutes to do this, as we do every morning. But with regards to that and honoring that, we will probably go over by 3 minutes this morning. Okay, so getting still, getting comfortable in your seat, and when you're ready, maybe shaking out shaking out what has probably already been a morning or a day for you, potentially. It's 9 a.m. Eastern, but it's very possible that it's already been a day, a thing. We all have those. So just shaking out whatever you want to kind of get rid of, and then closing down distractions and shutting down your eyes, closing down your eyes, or just softening your gaze, whatever feels most comfortable to you. And let's start that breath. So in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Allowing yourself to find the stillness, find the breath that feels good to you. And on your next exhale, invitation to follow that breath as you breathe out through your mouth. Follow that breath as it goes all the way down your body. So let it feel it go down your throat, down your chest, down through your belly, and landing in your sit bones or in your root center. So your root chakra, your root center. And bringing your awareness with that breath down to the sensation of the seat that you're sitting on against your skin, against your body. Maybe you feel like, oh, you could be a little bit more comfortable, so you shift around and you get more comfortable. Keep moving that breath. Maybe you just focus in on the sensations of what it feels like to have that seat against your body. Noticing how that seat, no matter how much you lean in and you get comfy and you let go, no matter how much you choose to do that, that seat won't mind and it won't drop you. Which means that in this moment, you are safe to be here, safe to be in your body, you are held, you're safe to breathe. And you are allowed to let it feel good. Keep that breath moving. And on your next inhale through the nose, let's bring that breath. Let's follow that breath up with our awareness, with our consciousness. Follow that breath up. It's like we're pulling it up from our root, right? From the seat bones, up through the belly and up into the chest, landing that breath in your heart space. Maybe it serves, maybe it's helpful to bring a hand to your heart so that you can really bring your consciousness, your awareness to your heart space. Letting your brain, letting your mind follow that sensation of your hand on your heart. And as you breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, what we're doing here is we're taking that breath in as though it's your heart space that is pulling that breath into your body. Expanding your chest cavity, pulling that life force in, letting it feel so good and so expansive, so calming, so nourishing. And when you exhale out through the mouth, following that breath from the heart space, letting it sink down into your body, into your belly, into your solar plexus. Letting that feel comforting, safe, relaxing. Letting it bring you, letting your breath bring you back to you. When we breathe consciously like this, the question I always ask myself, and that I'll ask you now, is how good can you let this feel? How much better, how much even more can you let this feel good? This is your breath. This is your moment. This is your relationship and your connection to your body. And your body offers you all of the equanimity, all of the regulation, all of the peace, all of the safety. When we cultivate this relationship with it, and then in moments where we feel like situations outside of our control, outside of ourselves, are taking over and are causing us to feel certain ways, when we remember to come back to our breath and to bring that, breathe in through the nose, expanding that heart space, opening up that heart portal, pulling in that breath and then sinking it with every exhale into our bodies, where it feels good, where we remember that we are safe and that we are home within ourselves. When we remember to do this, it's one of the most powerful, potent leadership skills that too regularly goes untaught. Keeping with that breath, if there's emotion that comes up, what we're doing here, if there is emotion that comes up, I spoke earlier about your window of tolerance. How deeply are you able to allow yourself to feel what's present? There's no shoulds, there's no shouldn'ts. If you feel it too much and it feels too intense, just come back to your breath. Just come back to your breath. Focus on that breath. Bring it back into your belly, where you remind yourself, you teach yourself that this is safe, this is safe, this is safe. You are safe to breathe. You are safe to feel. And then come back to, when you feel restabilized, when you feel better, come back to, okay, can you go back to feeling what is present? And that's called titration. That practice helps you expand your window of tolerance. And the more that you do that, without judgment, with self-compassion, with listening to your body and never going too far outside of your window of tolerance, so that you can always remember that you can come back to your body, come back to safety, come back to that breath. The more you do this, the more you will realize, you will experience that you can hold so much more, that you can be present in so much more without wobbling. It makes you stronger. It makes you more resilient. It makes you more powerful. It makes you more influential. It makes you more resonant. It's the opposite of weakness. So, whatever's present, whatever you feel, is completely welcome. Just listen to your body. And as we take our last moments of breath, if you don't already have a hand on your heart, bring a hand to your heart. And let's just feel into gratitude for a moment. Gratitude is the highest frequency. It's the highest vibration. It's the most expansive feeling. I share often that when I'm in so much gratitude, I literally feel like I can levitate. And so when we need to emotionally regulate, and we can remember gratitude, remember two things can be true, right? We can feel two things at once. Gratitude instantly uplifts. It instantly helps bring us back to what's real, what actually matters, right? How much we have, we go out of scarcity and into abundance, out of lack and into gratitude. Like, it's such a powerful thing. So let's take a moment to really feel grateful. Grateful to yourself for showing up and doing this practice. Gifting yourself the exercise of this skill, the exercising of this skill. I promise it's worth your time. And gratitude to your body for giving you, just by its very nature, access to calm, to peace, to clarity, to safety, so that you can truly, truly lead every moment as the highest version of who you want to be. And when you're ready, coming back to the screen, wiggling your fingers and your toes, and coming back to the moment. If you feel called, I'd love to hear how that felt for you. And before I, sign off for the day, just to remind you that the far too often misconception is that, quote unquote, you're doing it wrong because you're needing to regulate consistently or constantly. You're doing it wrong because you're not staying in that place of higher frequency, of emotional regulation, of feeling good, of nervous system regulation. That would be a robot. That is not doing it wrong. That is not the barometer of doing it right or doing it wrong. The fact that if you're even thinking that, the fact that you have the awareness to go, oh, I'm constantly needing to bring myself back to regulation, that means you're doing it right. That means you actually have the awareness that I talked about. That means that you actually are in tune with your body and you are consciously bringing yourself back to center. And that is the practice. Imagine if we lived in a world where more people, or everybody, knew how to do that whenever they felt dysregulated or whenever they felt an intense fear-based emotion. Imagine the world that we would live in if people went, oh, I feel this right now. I'm going to get with that. I'm going to re-regulate so that I can lead with clarity and with alignment, in coherence, with actual engagement of my prefrontal cortex rather than lack thereof. Imagine that world. So constantly doing this work is the practice. And when we are human, there's no constant state of regulation. There isn't. But it can be a constant remembrance that you're allowed to feel good, that you deserve to feel good, that you are strong enough, you are capable of holding what's present, moving through it, and bringing yourself back to center. And whenever you need to, these recordings are available to you, LinkedIn, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are streamed. So you can always just tune back in to the second half of these sessions, of these episodes, and have a guided practice of getting back into center. I do pretty much the same pattern every single day with you so that you can create a relationship and have ease of access with what we do, so that you can have a framework, essentially, for doing it on your own if you need to, when you need to. All right, with that, I will be back tomorrow for another episode of Morning Lives with me, Melissa Agnes. If this was interesting and beneficial to you, please share it, because that world that I painted of wouldn't it be wonderful to live in a world where more humans know how to do this on a regular basis? That's the world that I would like to live in. And if this was beneficial for you in that regard, please share it with others so that we could get more people learning this skill and really truly stepping in to their power and their potential. If you want to learn these skills, like next level out of this world, learn these skills and really step into the highest version of who you are here to be and the mission that you are here to lead, then please go and check out the Visionary Leadership Mastermind at melissaagnes.com. Link to that is below in the show notes. Doors close in April for the next cohort, and that program, that's where you learn to truly step into all of this, all of the things that we talk about in these morning lives, where you have the support to do so, and where you are surrounded week after week by other visionary leaders who have huge missions on their hearts just like you, and who are ready and willing to step into the highest potential of who they are here to be. So if you want to be surrounded by a group like that as you do that inner work for yourself and as you move the mountains that you're here to move, then check out the Visionary Leadership Mastermind at melissaagnes.com. Apart from that, I will see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, live on LinkedIn and IG for another morning live with me, Melissa Agnes. Stay regulated, remember your breath, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.